there is a common conception out there about certain signs. And I just wanted to give you my perspective. All four of these people that had a huge impact and influence in my life were in fact Virgos. I'm not a Virgo. I am the most sensitive sign in the astrological calendar, supposedly. And it's funny because Virgos get a rap for being the most critical, being the most judgmental, being the most analytic, people that can see flaws and speak their mind about it because they're perfectionists. And even if you think you're right, if you encounter a Virgo, they think they're right, you're wrong because they're criticizing, judging, whatever. Now, is that true for every Virgo? I think it's a broad conception, but I don't think every Virgo is the same. I don't live my life scrutinizing people by their birth sign. Because I was raised by 3+1 Virgos, I developed their habits. I developed their strengths. So despite the fact that I'm not a Virgo and I have very sensitive characteristics of my own, I pulled through childhood as a Generation Xer to begin with, and being raised by 3+1 Virgos as super resilient. I learned how to be stronger for it. I learned how to not cry over everything, as my sign is known for. And I'm the sign that is supposedly nurturing, caring, things like that. And it is true, especially when it comes to my family. I have those Virgo characteristics that were instilled in me. So I'm not your typical soft-hearted, sponge-like creature that hides in a shell. I'm more of a analytical, perfectionist person because of my raising. So just to give you a few examples, I don't have a degree in accounting. I am not an expert in math. Math is my worst subject. I was never good at it. I could get through algebra and I did okay, but past that, forget it. I never passed geometry. In fact, my grandmother hired a tutor for me because she felt so bad I couldn't grasp the concept. Because of the analytical side that I was raised with, I was able to do taxes. I was able to learn federal taxation when I worked at the law firm. So that's just kind of an example of the life skills I was instilled with from being raised with many very analytical people in my life. The other example is the people in my life were hardcore savages, okay? The people in my life said how it was. They never held back. If they thought you looked like a frump in what you were wearing, it could have been even for like a sleepover and you put on your Hanes sweatsuit and you go in with your sleeping bag. They would say, you look like a frump. Change out of that and put something on. I always have had like thick eyebrows. I was on my way to school and we walked to school back then. We didn't have a school bus, so I had to walk to school, and I was headed out the door and my grandmother stopped me and she said, "Where are you going looking like that?" And I said, "Looking like what? What do you mean?" And she said, "You need to go wash that makeup off your eyebrows." I didn't have makeup on my eyebrows. They're just naturally thick and dark. So I didn't have makeup on my eyebrows. And she insisted I did. That is an example of the Virgos I was raised by. I'm not saying all Virgos do this, but these particular Virgos would do something like that. They would call me out even when there was nothing to call out, because in their mind, I had painted my eyebrows, which I had not. I had to prove to my grandmother that I had no makeup on my eyebrows. So she made me go into the bathroom and she made me take a warm face cloth and wipe my eyebrows so she could see there was nothing on them. She thought I had gotten some eyeliner and painted my eyebrows. As ridiculous as that is the type of thing I grew up with. Virgos are known to have a judgmental and critical side, and that right there is what I'm talking about. That kind of perception, attitude. Please do not take this the wrong way if you're a Virgo. I'm just saying my experience. I would never want to put a broadcast out there saying all Virgos are like this, because that's just not true. 1 Virgo in my life was a male. 3 were female. The male Virgo was very, very analytical. He had spatial intelligence. He knew how to build things. He became the foreman of a company of 400 employees with no education in it. It just goes to show you the level of expertise he had, even though he had no degree in his field. It was actually quite amazing. The 3 Virgo females, on the other hand, while they didn't have that spatial intelligent concept, they were like more of the suspicious. They would pick apart, nitpick, and not to be critical of them, but that's what they did. That's truly what they did. They picked apart and nitpicked every single thing. This is a lot of what the thought process is of a Virgo. Like I said, they're very critical thinkers. They see things that others don't. They can analyze an entire situation and pull a completely different perspective out of it than anybody else. Because of all of the critical judgments that I took in, because of all of the micromanaging tendencies, because of the perfectionism that I was raised with, I was constantly under scrutiny. I couldn't just be me. The reason I'm saying all that is because being raised by people who are suspicious, judgmental, analytical, criticizing all the time, because I was raised like that, it didn't erode my confidence. It didn't make me distrustful. It conditioned me. That's what it did. It conditioned me. So even though my zodiac sign is the most sensitive, I don't think I act like my typical zodiac sign or the impression of it. And because of the resilience I was taught, and because of the confidence I had to find on my own, it didn't tear me down. It didn't make me more insecure. It didn't make me more sensitive. It made me stronger. Thank you so much for watching today. Take care.